Hey guys, Ben over here at KCE Repair. We're over here looking at a Rhino 660 carburetor. A customer brought it in stating that the machine would lose power while it was going up the hill. He was worried that the engine was starting to go out on him. He just had the engine top end replaced at a Yamaha dealership, and I believe they've also done carb work on it as well. And what we've got going on is that the rear gasket was never seated and has never sealed this carburetor. And they stripped out the one of the screws in here. So I just thought I'd show a picture and kind of see some of the frustrating things that your mechanic usually has to go through to get this stuff fixed. And it takes extra time to do this, and sometimes you don't even get charged for this extra time that it takes to repair other people's mistakes, just because it's usually outside of the book labor, and it makes it really difficult for our service techs, or service writers I should say, to accurately give you quotes. But this stuff happens all the time, like all the time, and a job rarely takes as much time as it's quoted to you. But we'll take a look at this, and you can see what I mean. So here's this tasty carburetor here, and you can see that it's definitely been leaking for a while, and you can see why it's been leaking for a while. And at first maybe I thought this was an OEM gasket, but being that it must have been subjected to some heavy solvents in order for it to expand when it was put back together, the chances are that this isn't even an OEM gasket. Now, you can get away with using non-OEM gaskets sometimes because they're a gasket. They just need to seal. They need to be made out of something kind of durable, and they need to hold. And it's a pretty simple job as long as it's going to be taller than the edge, which is not really focusing in. As long as it's taller than the edge here, it's going to seal. But the cheaper gaskets tend to expand once they get a little bit of fuel on them. So if you don't clean this really good and you get some fuel on it, or any other solvent like carb cleaner, it will expand, and then this happens. Now, from my understanding, this came from a dealership like this, but this is my screwed up bolt, I should say. And this is just how it came. It's a bit sad that this kind of stuff happens and it gets put back into customers' equipment. And he didn't even know he had a problem. This machine is covered up, so you're not going to smell the gasoline usually, or even if you do smell it, it might be really faint since the engine is covered, and it poses a gigantic fire hazard. So if you guys are looking for a shop and you want to find a good shop, I know it's tough out there. It just really is. Just look at your reviews, and if the guy's not charging very much money, he's probably working out of his house. I got no problem with that. That's how I started. But look at the reviews. See if he's been reviewed. See if he's got a business license. Make sure he's been paying his taxes and doing stuff he needs to be doing, because those companies that are doing that, like mine, are very legit. We have to get this stuff done. It has to work, and it needs to work well, because if you guys start tearing this up on reviews, well, it really makes it difficult to continue doing business. But this is just something that happens. It happens all the time. But yeah, we'll do this as like kind of our little before shot. We'll do an after shot, and we'll get this guy all cleaned up. Well, we didn't even get 15 seconds into this rebuild and find another problem over here. So this screw right here, that right there is our idle fuel mixture screw, and it controls see that little guy sticking out right there? It's plugged completely up. That controls how much fuel pump comes out of there. And this is what gives your machine that ability to idle correctly. And it's just the idle circuit. There's some other holes in there. Those are transitionary jets. They are permanently affixed into the carburetor. But this guy right here, it is 100% as tight as it can get, which means that this machine, in order for it to idle, must have been getting fuel from somewhere it wasn't supposed to. Another thing we noticed on this machine, and I know this probably will not show up on the camera, but this right here is the slide valve needle, and it is not an original Mikuni needle. And there's a little bit of a misconception about how this stuff works. Now, my understanding is when it comes to these jets in here, the ones that are here, the ones that are here, the one that's right here, these guys are all metered differently. Those numbers on there, while some of them could be a larger number, say like 160, would have a bigger hole than say a 105. The way that these holes are measured has to do more with a specific gravity of fluid to go through them and the time it takes for it to go through. They could be using air to figure that out. These right here are very, very specific. And so replacing them with non-genuine parts can cause you more problems. The other issue I've seen with using non-genuine parts on the jets is the buildup of material on them happens much quicker. So if you let your machine sit for a little while, you're going to get the solids starting to grip quicker onto the other jets that are on there. You don't always meet these rebuild kits with these type of results where they're negative, but it does happen. Okay, just wanted to show you guys. Well, there we have it, folks. This is the smoking gun, the real problem, the biggest culprit. Why did we see this thing acting so weird? And this right here is an air cutoff diaphragm, and my understanding of it is a little bit hazy, but from what I can remember, this guy right here, whenever the machine is decelerating, or as this throttle plate is closed, the amount of vacuum that's produced over here will overcome the spring that's inside of it, shutting off air to the idle air circuit. If I remember correctly, and this could be also for the transitionary jets, and it could be backwards is the way I'm saying it could be backwards. That being said, this guy right here was never seated correctly, and I'm not sure when it wasn't seated correctly. It could have came from the factory like this, but this guy is the problem. This is why he was having such a hard time. This is why we saw this screw down here completely screwed in order to make it run. And now we found this, and we've already checked the engine to make sure that everything else is fine on it. We are going to be able to fix this, and it will come back better than ever.